Hello, and we are back with another football video because you might not believe it, but it's actually only 2 weeks until the championship
15
starts.
days until the Friday night kickoff.
15 days until the first Friday night kickoff of the championship season. I cannot wait to see Derby go from strength to strength. It's going to be all over by Christmas, I think. We're going to be the table just absolutely annihilated in first by 10 points. Thank you very much.
I'd arguably say that you've got the easiest game. Sunderland at this stage.
Oh God, yeah.
Because that club are in for it, aren't they?
Who did they buy? Someone from Bury.
They bought James Vaughan, yeah.
James Vaughan from Bury, 800k. My God, that's a big signing, isn't it?
It's a big signing.
In today's market, 800k. Oh, absolutely nailed it. Before we get into the video though, the video is sponsored by our friends Bookie, which is kind of an app, new type of betting thing where you swipe to select your bet, which is kind of like Tinder-esque, I suppose, but for betting. They've got a couple of offers. Firstly, open an account, bet £20 and get £20 in free bets. They've also got an ACCA insurance where if you place a £5 minimum on a fourfold or more and one leg lets you down, you will receive your money back. Max bet 25 bet, but that's still pretty good, I suppose. People like doing accumulators, which a lot of people do. But, so my man Ross Casey, the Mad Dog, has got a preview on every single team in the championship this season.
So,
going from favourites.
Put the kettle on, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one, baby.
24 teams to go.
All the way down to Burton.
Yeah.
Burton,
From Middlesbrough to Burton.
The new Rotherham.
The new Rotherham. 24 teams starting afresh after a brilliant season for Newcastle last season. They were early favourites, short price, but wisely so.
Lots of winning team Ackers.
Oh yes,
winning the league Ackers.
That certainly was, yes.
Got saved by that Newcastle.
Yeah, and it didn't look like it because Brighton only needed 2 points from 9 in their last 3 games and managed to balls it up. But if you go back to last year's video of this very same, you'll see that I tipped Brighton top 2 finish 8-1.
Go on.
As well as the likes of Wigan to be relegated at 8-1 as well. So let's see if we can find some more decent prices here. So we start with Middlesbrough, the favourites. Joint favourites with Aston Villa actually at the moment, but we'll start with Middlesbrough. Of course, Gary Monk is their new manager after a really good season with Leeds. Quite surprised that Leeds let him go, to be honest. And at this level, they've got a really strong squad. They're yet to concede in pre-season. Chairman Steve Gibson was bullish pre-season as well. He said that Middlesbrough were going to look to smash the league, which is pretty strong statement from your chairman. And he certainly put his money where his mouth is. Cyrus Christie's come in, Johnny Howson's come in.
Great player.
Martin Braithwaite's come in from French League. He scored 12 goals in the French League last season.
Oh, nice.
And then, just this week, they smashed their transfer record, £14 million, more than they've ever signed a player previously. That includes the massive flop that was Alfonso Alves back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
For,
oh my God, I remember him.
For double figures.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't work out, but hopefully Britt Assombalonga will. He is quite injury prone, is Assombalonga. Forrest didn't really get a full season out of him, I don't think. He was always kind of either almost injured or very injured throughout his career there. But on his day, arguably he is the best striker in the Championship, arguably. So they've plumped up the money to sign him, which is important because in the Premier League they just didn't score enough goals, did they?
No.
So they've got Braithwaite and they've got Assombalonga. So, and of course they've also got Patrick Bamford as well, who proved.
Is he still there?
Yeah.
Oh, is he?
Who proved that he could score goals at that level. So
he won them Championship Player of the Season, didn't he?
Yeah.
The season before they went
did.
up. Is he going to even start though with Assombalonga?
I know. So yeah, they've got plenty of options going forward, and I certainly wouldn't put anyone off backing them at 8-1. I think that's a way better price than I think Newcastle was something like 2-1 last season.
Yeah.
So 8-1, decent price. And alongside them at 8-1, Aston Villa, and all the talk this season is going to be about John Terry, isn't it? Captain, leader, legend, John Terry. He's finally left Chelsea, and he's plumped for a season in the Championship with Aston Villa. Steve Bruce is free transfer, and he's now made them captain as well, which is little surprise. Can he still go? That's a big question. He showed glimpses last season of being still the dominant centre half that he always has been. But he also showed glimpses of being way past his best. So it'll be interesting to see a drop down in levels for him into the Championship. If that helps his cause, it possibly will do. The Villains have also brought in Sam Johnston after being pressed on loan in between the sticks, and just a few hours ago they unveiled Al Mohammedi from Hull, which is a good signing, and also Glenn Whelan, a very experienced centre midfielder from Stoke. So they're going down the road of what Derby are also by bringing in some experience. Villa won just 4 matches on the road last season. They have to address that from last season. They actually ended up in the bottom half, which was a really poor season for the players that they've got at their disposal. They need to change that. But a 2-1 loss at Shrewsbury and a 0-0 draw at Walsall so far in pre-season proves that perhaps that away form still isn't getting any better. But also you can attribute that to the fact that Codger has been out injured with his broken ankle. Jonathan Codger, bought for a lot of money. I think it was 14 million last season. He scored 19 league goals for them last season, and that means that if Codger doesn't score, Villa don't score, because Jack Grealish was their second top scorer, and he only scored 5 goals. That's a huge difference. So basically, there's a big amount of pressure on Codger to get the goals. They haven't really addressed that at the moment because they haven't really brought in another striker yet, but I'm sure that they probably will try to. So for me, I don't think that they're going to win the league, Aston Villa, this season, and they're too short odds on for both top 6 and top half finishes, so they're a no bet for me, Aston Villa. Moving down the line, we've got Fulham. Fulham 9-1, so almost favourites really, third favourites. They've signed up Tom Kearney and Ryan Sessegnon to new contracts, and Lucas Piazon returns on loan. That's important because those 3 players were really good for them last season. The West London side won 12 of their last 19 matches last season, so they ended the season really, really well with all 3 of those players in the team. Tom Kearney in particular, I'm surprised that he's signed a new contract with them actually. I personally think that he could do a decent job at Premier League level, but fair play to him for showing a bit of loyalty, and I can understand them being high in the betting market because of it. I think they've got a really strong side, and I think top 6 odds of 5-4 represent pretty good value because they do have a really decent squad there. However, they did lose 8-2 to a strong Chelsea side in pre-season, but pre-season games you can't really read too much into it. But playing up against Chelsea, a difficult
Tom
task.
Kearney, they've done really well to keep hold of him.
Yeah,
he's absolutely class.
Really, really good. So that's 9-1 on Fulham, or 5-4 top 6. Sheffield Wednesday are an interesting team for me this season. 11-1. Brighton last season were always on the cusp. They'd been on the cusp a few times previously, always fell at the last hurdle.
Yeah.
And eventually they managed to get their promotion last season. I see Sheffield Wednesday being that team this season. I think they're in for a really, really good season. Jordan Rhodes, of course, championship goals, and he didn't really improve them that much last season. I think moving in January is always a bit of a tough task. It's hard to settle into a new club when you move in January. But in pre-season, he's been banging the goals in. That could only be a good thing for them. George Boyd is coming as well from Burnley. I think he's a really good signing at this level. And that means that they've only actually brought 1 new player in to a settled side that have finished 6th and 4th in the last 2 seasons. So they know this league well. I can see them going really, really well. I think 11-1 isn't a bad shout for them to actually win the league, actually.
Oh. You think it get better than Villa and Middlesbrough?
I think so, yeah.
I think those 2 are going to be tough to get better of.
I think, personally, Wednesday are set. I think they've got a really, really good squad. Carvajal I rate as a manager as well. So I think they're in for a really good season. I actually think 11-1 on Sheffield Wednesday is a really good price.
Okay, next up is Wolves, who have obviously just gone insane and bought everyone.
Yep, the takeover is fully in swing. Last season, of course, they bought the likes of Helder Costa for a lot of money, and they've backed that up again. This summer, they've spent 15.8 million on Ruben Neves from Porto, who's been a Porto captain, which is mental that he's dropped down to play for Wolves in the Championship. But money talks. Wolves just won 2 of their last 7 matches last season. That's the reason that Paul Lambert was given the boot. He's now been replaced by Nuno Espirito Santos.
Nice. Well
Santo, sorry.
No, not well.
Not well done at all. Santo, who of course was manager of Porto as well, so they've got a link there. He's overseen pre-season victories over the likes of Victoria Pilsen and Werder Bremen, so it looks promising for the Molyneux side. 9-5 to finish in the top 6 after a poor finish of 15th last time out. I can't really judge them at the moment, Wolves. I think they should be in the top 6 when
Yeah.
when you look at the money that they're spending. But last season they ballsed it up so badly that I don't have a huge amount of confidence in them, and they've got a brand new manager who doesn't know this league at all.
No.
So 9-5 on a top 6 finish isn't a terrible price, but they did finish 15th last time out. So
Yeah, they were bad the whole season.
yeah,
pretty much.
but they have brought in a lot of new players. So 9-5 could well prove to be a very good price, but for me the jury's still out on them.
Okay, leave that one alone then.
Yeah.
Norwich next.
Norwich next, yeah, another team that have brought in a foreign manager, Daniel Farke, who was the
Great name. Great name.
who was the Dortmund under-23 coach last season, and he's brought in 4 players from the Bundesliga, and he's allowed 13 players to leave Carrow Road.
Brave.
Huge amount of change at Norwich.
Brave Farke.
He's a brave fuck. One thing that he would like to keep though is their amazing home record. No Championship side scored more goals at home than Norwich did last season. So if they can keep that up and improve their away form, then they'll be on for a decent season. They've picked up a 2-0 win at Cambridge already, and now they're embarking on their German tour. So can the Eastern European influence bring success for them? That's the big question. For me, again, the jury's out on them. 12-1 though on Norwich to win the league. Not a bad price at all. But for me, just because there's been quite a lot of changes at the club, I'm going to steer clear of that one as well. And then we move on to Derby County, the Rams, Jake Johns' favourite team in the world. Gary Rowett, of course, he was much wanted after his inexplicable sacking from
Great manager.
Birmingham. I don't understand why they got rid of him.
They're like 1 point or whatever it was in.
They were like 1 point away from the playoffs when he was sacked, and Zola came in to replace him and took them to 1 game from being relegated. So that was a good choice from their board.
Very good season from Zola.
But eventually, Steve McLaren was sacked by Derby, and Derby managed to pick him up. They only lost 2 matches in 9 under his helm last season. He's got a very, very experienced squad, and he's added even more with Curtis Davis and Tom Huddleston from Hull, 2 very good players who also got promoted with Hull 2 seasons ago, so they know this league very, very well. They've picked up 4-0 wins, 2-0 wins over lower league opposition. And I think they'll fare better this season than they did last season. I think 15-8 on a top 6 finish is a really good price.
That is a very good price. We definitely need a bit more youth, but we still have the experience there.
You've got so much experience.
Important.
The likes of David Nugent, Darren Bent, Scott Carson,
Keogh.
Richard Keogh.
Yeah, we've got a lot of
It goes
experience.
on and on and on.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, plenty of experience. I think that for me, they'll definitely do better than last season, and I think a top 6 finish is more than possible.
I think we're going to win the league, so 14-1 is very good. Sunderland next,
Lump on.
16-1.
I think Sunderland at 16-1 is an awful price.
Yeah.
I really, really do. Simon Grayson's got such a tough task. I really rate him as a manager. He did a brilliant job at Preston under hard circumstances with a very small budget in this league. But Sunderland are on their knees. They picked up just 6 victories last season, and like Aston Villa last year, they may well suffer a hangover. For me, Duncan Watmore is their one real saviour. I think he's a really, really good player. Electric pace. I think he can do some damage in the Championship. But pre-season, a 3-0 loss at St Johnstone doesn't do anything to provide any reason to back them at 16-1. They were 3-0 down at half-time in that game. I just think that up until Christmas, they're going to really struggle, and I think eventually Grayson can get hold of them, and they'll improve a bit like Bruce did at Villa. But I think that up until kind of Christmas, they're going to struggle because they're so used to losing games.
Yeah.
I think a bottom half finish actually isn't a bad price here. Aston Villa just about finished in the bottom half last season, 5-4. So 5-4 on them to be in the bottom half is my top tip there.
Okay then, Leedsy boys.
Yeah, Leeds. They're really causing me a bit of concern. Actually, they're throwing money. They've brought in a lot of players. Another takeover, of course.
Oh yeah.
So they've also got a new manager because they got rid of Gary Monk, Thomas Christiansen. He's got plenty of funds to go out and sign new players, and they've done just that. But I think the slight worry for me is that they've possibly signed too many, because you've got to gel these players together to go out and play for 46 games, and it doesn't always click straight away. So I think plausibly they've maybe actually signed too many. But they have managed to hold on to Chris Wood, of course, who was the top scorer last season in the whole championship, and he's 9-1 to hold on to that accomplishment next season. So that's not a bad shout, because they've improved their squad, and he's proved that he's a very good championship striker. If he stays fit, he'll score plenty more goals, just like Harry Kane finished top scorer 2 years in a row. There's no reason that Chris Wood can't either. So at 9-1, I think that's a decent price.
Chris Wood, I think we should try and buy him, actually.
Yeah?
That'd be a good signing. Next is Hull.
Yep, another new manager. So many new managers in the championship this season. Leonid Slutsky. You shouldn't laugh at this sort of
Leonid
thing.
Slutsky and
Leonid
Daniel Fark.
Slutsky and Daniel
Jesus.
Fark.
Jesus. Okay. Slutsky, come on, right.
Former CSKA Moscow manager. He's been in England for months and months and months, just brushing up on his language, because he really wanted a job in England, and he waited and waited and waited until finally picking up the Hull managerial role. He's got a glittering record in Russia. He's done really, really well over there, and he's going to try and get one with Hull in England. They've held on to the likes of Grosicki, Abel Hernandez and Sam Klukas, all really good players. And they've just spent £8 million on Kevin Stewart, a kind of midfield destroyer, to kind of fill the void from your man Tom Huddleston.
Great.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough ask for Slutsky to pick up a championship win, but I think a decent price here, 8 to 13 top half finish. They'll definitely finish in the top half. I think 8 to 13 is a decent price.
Decent. That is decent. Reading next, going into the 20-1 area now.
Yeah, 20-1 on Reading, a team that only missed out on promotion by a penalty shootout last season. I'm actually a little bit surprised at that. Yapstam did really, really well with them last year. A few fans say that he played a bit too defensively, playing a lot of possession-based football from his Dutch upbringing. They said it was a bit boring to watch, but it certainly proved successful, didn't it, to get to Wembley. They have lost Danny Williams to Huddersfield. They've lost Ali Al-Habsi, and Jan Kermorgan, who scored most of their goals last season, is actually injured at the moment. It looks like he might be out for some time. However, they have scored 9 goals in 4 games in pre-season, so they don't seem to really be missing them. And again, top half finish, 4-5 on a team that finished in the playoff final last season. I think that's a crazy good price. So yeah, 4-5 is my pick for a top half finish on Reading.
Brentford next.
Brentford, yeah, a team.
Big jump there, 25-1.
Yeah, big jump. A team that I think go under the radar a lot. I think Brentford are a really good team. I think the fact that they have a home of Griffin Park, which is a bit run down, people just think that they're not a very good team just based upon the ground.
Manager Dean Smith, Brentford.
Yeah, but I honestly think they're a really good side, especially at home. Griffin Park is a tough place to go and play your football. In Jota, you've got possibly the best player in the league. I think he's a really, really good player. So this is a team that scored 75 goals last season. They've just brought in a player from St Etienne, Neil Maupay, spent around £1.6 million on him, and in the current market that could prove an absolute bargain, in my view. So I think that they've got absolutely no trouble of being relegated. Some fans always put Brentford in as relegation contenders. I don't see that at all. I think they'll be top half easily. So I certainly wouldn't be back in the 25-1 to win the league, but they'll be more than comfortable in my opinion.
Okay, top half bet for that one. Cardiff next, 28-1.
Yeah, their first full season under the man, the myth, the legend that is Neil Warnock. I personally can't stand him, but I can understand why fans, once he's in charge of a club, how he can...
He bloody saved Rotherham.
Yeah, he really, really did. And he did a great job of actually saving Cardiff, because under Paul Trollope, another great name in the Championship, Cardiff were really struggling, weren't they? So he did his thing, Warnock. He made them hard to beat, and they finished, I think, 14th in the end. Absolutely fine. And they've bought classic Warnock kind of players. They've brought lots of big physical players who are going to make them hard to beat, and they're going to be pushing towards the playoffs next season. I actually think. I don't think they'll actually make it, but I think they'll possibly finish top half. an improvement on last season. And the one difference, of course, is that they've signed one of my favourite ever players. Oh God, they've signed Lee Tomlin from Bristol City. Pretty disappointed about that.
Oh dear.
But he's the one player that can change the game. He plays in that number 10 role. Gets on the ball. He's kind of mercurial. He can be absolutely terrible, or he can change the game on a sixpence. So having a big, strong team with a player like that inside it, I think they're going to be a decent outfit this season. 28-1, if you fancy them. Next up is Birmingham, 30-1.
Under your man Harry.
Yeah, another interesting English manager, Harry Redknapp. He kept them up last season, got his big payoff for it, for winning 1 game out of 3 or something like that. Fair play to him and his agent. But they've made 4 impressive signings since the summer. And remember, this squad, as we said when we're talking about Rowett for Derby, this is a squad that were pushing for the playoffs at the time.
Yeah.
So he's improved it. So I think there'll be a surprise package this season. I think they're going to do very, very well. Che Adams, I really rate up front as well. 10-11 on a top half finish for them is my best bet there. I think Birmingham are going to have a good season.
Sheffield United.
Yep, Sheffield United raking in the money thanks to their sell-on clauses recently with Kyle Walker.
Oh Jesus! Yeah.
They got a lot of money for him, and there's another player as well that skipped my memory that they've got plenty of money for. So they absolutely stormed League One, didn't they? They actually got 100 points, wasn't it, last season? Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it was.
But that doesn't always translate to championship success, does it? Bristol City, my team, won the league 3 years ago, and we finished on 99 points. And then we've finished, I think, 1 place above the relegation zone. So it doesn't always translate. However, they beat Malaga in pre-season, which is downright impressive. Gives them plenty of reason for excitement as well. But I do think a bottom half finish for the Blades at 5-6 is a decent price. I'm not necessarily sure that they're going to get relegated. I think they'll do alright this season. But 5-6 on them to finish between 13th and 24th seems a good price.
Okay, now it's your boys. The Ross Casey team of choice. The city of Bristol.
Bristol City. How do you replace 23-goal Tammy Abraham? How do you do it?
It's tough.
I'm really worried about our man Famara Daidu. Record signing, 5.3 million for Bristol City. I can't describe how mental that is for me to say that we've signed a player for 5.3 million. That in itself puts him under a lot of pressure, of course, because he's going to be expected to score goals for that amount of money. Plus, the player that we had in his place was a loan player, Tammy Abraham. But in the current market, if we were to try and buy him, we'd be talking like 15 million, I reckon.
Oh, probably more. I'd say more, definitely more.
So it's a tough one because he's following someone who did so well for us last season. But fingers crossed he can do that he can do the business. We started absolutely brilliantly last season. We were, I think, when we went into the international break, we were 4th.
Yeah.
And then we just stopped learning how to play football, and it took until about March until we started to win a game again. So if we can try and be a bit less patchy, then perhaps we'll do okay. Some fans are already saying that we're going to be relegated this season. I do think that we're going to be hovering around the bottom. I don't necessarily think we're going to get relegated, but 8-1 if you fancy Bristol City to get relegated, that's a decent price. But I think that we're going to be in for a similar finish to last season. I reckon bottom half finish again. 8-1 on the relegation, it's appealing, don't get me wrong, but I personally see us as being safe next season. Nottingham Forest, however.
Boo.
Nottingham Forest.
Boo. Don't talk about them, Skip. Doesn't matter. They're going to get relegated, end of. That's fine.
Mark Warburton guided Forest to the last day of survival last season from Rangers. And he's also got the Aston Bolonga money to reinvest into the squad. I think Zach Clough could have a breakout year this season. Also, Brereton, the player, of course, who won the Under-19 World Cup with England.
Oh, yeah.
Well done to him. So going forward, they've got plenty of goals in them, I think. Only 7 of 23 Championship clubs won more home games than Forest last season, so home form for them is key. However, I think bottom half finish again, 8-13 decent price for them to finish bottom half for a team that only survived on the last day.
Yeah.
Preston,
a couple of good young players.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
I think they could be a bit dark horses to do all right. I think. Yeah, Preston.
Preston are
50 to 1.
50 to 1 on Preston. They won't win the championship, in my view. Alex Neil has replaced Simon Grayson as he's left for Sunderland, and the jury's out a bit on him after he had a really strong Norwich squad, didn't he? Last season, when they came down, the likes of Wes Hoolahan, Robbie Brady, Cameron Jerome, all players that should be doing much better in the championship than they did. He managed they sacked him before we really knew if he was going to reach the playoffs or not, but it didn't look like they were going to reach the playoffs under him, and they didn't, of course. So the jury's out on him a little bit, but they are an unfashionable side, 50 to 1, but they've got some really good players going forward in particular. They had a game towards the end of the season last season where Bristol City went up there to Deepdale and we lost 5-0. They just played us off the park, and they've got the capability to do that. They gave Arsenal a really strong game in the FA Cup last season, if you remember. So specifically at Deepdale, they're a decent side. I think it could go either way for them, a little bit similar to Bristol City. If they start poorly, then they could well be in a relegation battle. But for me, they're going to stay up.
Okay.
QPR, though, I think QPR might be the team to go down.
That will be funny as hell.
I think last season in particular, Ian Holloway had an absolutely dreadful end to the championship season. The Hoops lost 7 of 8 going into the last 8 games. They only needed to win 1 game to guarantee safety, and they won 1 out of 8.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
He's only been able to bring in 1 new player to the squad after their board went absolutely crazy in the Premier League, didn't they? Spent way too much money on the likes of Jose Bosingua, who was taking home something like 90 grand a week, wasn't he? And was just not interested in playing football at that point. So they're 4 to 11 to finish bottom half, and 9 to 2 to go down. I think 9 to 2 on QPR to be relegated is a pretty decent price.
Ipswich up next with your man Mick McCarthy.
Yeah, you got to love
video.
You got to love Mick McCarthy and Careless Whisper over the background.
You can't not love that. It's one of the best videos out there.
He's a polarising figure at Portman Road. Some claim that he's the perfect man for the job under the circumstances. Small funds, but he manages to get the best out of his players by playing kind of a rudimentary style of football that is hard to play against. Others are hoping for a more progressive coach. In my opinion, they've made some good signings so far, and I think that looking at those signings, he'll actually try and please those fans by trying to play a bit more of an expansive style of play. But I think that could be their downfall, because it's something that he's just not good at. Mick McCarthy is Mick McCarthy. He's going to play 4-4-2 or 4-5-1, and they're going to put 4 blocks of 4 behind the ball, and then they're going to counter-attack and use width to try and break down teams. That's what he does, and that's what he's good at. If they try and be a bit more expansive, I'm not entirely sure that's going to suit them. So I think a bottom half finish for them again this season. They're 100 to 1 if you fancy them to win the league, but they won't.
Okay, Bolton 100 to 1 again as well.
Another 100 to 1 Bolton. Phil Parkinson did a wonderful job at, with Bolton last season. Didn't spend any money and got promoted. Well done, sir. And again, he's had no money to spend in the Championship this time around, but he still picked up so many really good free transfer signings that I think they'll actually stay up. There's a to stay up market available on Easy Odds, and that's my pick for them.
Millwall also 100 to 1.
Yep, Neil Harris, another manager that warrants lots of praise for his work down in League One last season. They're 5 to 2 third favourites to go down this season, and his signings are solid if unspectacular. Expect the Lions to be hard to beat and pick up lots of draws this season. So for me, look out for your Aki bets when Millwall are in town. Draw.
Barnsley, second to last team, 125 to 1 to win the league.
Yeah, I think it's a bit harsh on Barnsley this.
Okay.
They came up last season from League One in the playoffs, and they did really well. I I don't see why they should be 125 to 1 behind the likes of QPR or Bolton. Granted, they've had their squad decimated yet again, and they seem to have that every single summer. But their backroom team and their coaching staff just make a new team. They're almost the Southampton of the Championship.
Yeah.
For me, they are buy low, sell high, and that makes sense because it means that they're going to be financially doing very, very well. And they've done the same again. They've picked up cheap, young, hungry players from the lower leagues, and I think that they'll be okay. I really don't think that they're in any kind of relegation trouble for me.
Maybe them to stay up as well then.
Yep, definitely. Barnsley to stay up for me. They've proved that they can do it on a budget, and they'll do it again.
Right, last team. Lowly Burton. Bit of a rivalry with Derby going on there as well.
You, of course, your man Nigel Clough.
Imagine if Burton got promoted. Burton in the Premier League would be amazing.
It wouldn't be too different to like Bournemouth, really. Yeah, they survived last season against all the odds. Massively helped by their Pirelli Stadium. They've got a bit of a. It's really a tight stadium, isn't it? It's quite intimidating for a lot of these championship players now that run a lot of money. It's not a nice stadium to go to. I'm sure the changing rooms are quite dark and danky, and footballers don't like that, so they should keep that the same.
Yeah, Terry goes Burton.
But for me, they're the right favourites to be relegated. I think 175 to 1 is correct on their outright odds, and I will be backing them at 17 to 10 to be relegated.
That's a decent price, 17 to 10.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievably good price. Okay.
24 teams, rattled off in half an hour.
We've done it. We finished it. 24 teams in half an hour. Thank you very much, Ross.
Yeah.
Good knowledge once more. Hopefully that will help your betting for the Championship season. Remember to sign up with Bookie to get all those offers. Bet £20, get £20 free. ACCA insurance as well.
Millwall draw.
Millwall to draw every game in the season. Accumulator. That's the main tip, I think, to take out of this. But yeah, Derby are going to win, so I don't even know why. You probably heard me say that and just say, I thought, oh yeah, that's true, so Derby are going to win, so there's no more point in me watching the rest of this video. I've been Jake Johns, this is your boy Ross Casey. Remember to subscribe and like this video if you liked it, don't like it if you don't like it. Just don't dislike it, because that would be real bad for us. It'd be bad for our morale. But anyway.
Those dislikers.
Yeah. See you later.